Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Anun Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. India and the UK signed landmark trade deal, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement or CETA, as Prime Minister Modi and PM Starmer hold talks in London. Both leaders endorsed the new India-UK Vision 2035. No place for double standards in fight against terrorism, asserts PM Modi. Says India-UK on the same page, reiterates agencies of both countries will work together on extradition of economic offenders. Thailand-Cambodia border dispute escalates with reports of civilian casualties. Thailand launches airstrikes on Cambodian military targets and Cambodia fires rockets and artillery. And Iran agrees to visit by team from UN nuclear watchdog IAEA in the coming weeks. India and the United Kingdom today signed the free trade agreement at Chequers, paving the way for shared prosperity of India and the UK in various sectors, including trade and defence. PM Modi called it a historic day in India-UK bilateral relations, adding that Indian textiles, footwear, gems and jewellery, seafood and engineering goods will get better marketing access in the UK, and processed food industry will find new opportunities in UK's market. Similarly, in a statement, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the FTA is the biggest and most economically significant trade deal and the UK has made since leaving EU, and added that the deal will bring huge benefits to both the countries.
In a landmark moment for India-UK relations, New Delhi and London have officially signed the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA. This historic accord ushers in a new era of strategic partnership, strengthening economic ties, streamlining trade processes and unlocking expansive investment opportunities across sectors.
यह समझौता मात्र आर्थिक साझेदारी नहीं, बल्कि साझा समृद्धि की योजना है। एक और भारतीय टेक्सटाइल, फुटवियर, जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी, सी फूड और इंजीनियरिंग गुड्स को यूके में बेहतर मार्केट एक्सेस मिलेगा। भारत के एग्रीकल्चर प्रोड्यूस और प्रोसेस्ड फूड इंडस्ट्री के लिए यूके की मार्केट में नए अवसर बनेंगे।
Leaders from both sides hailed the agreement as a major milestone. They expressed confidence that CETA will create fresh avenues for trade and investment, drive economic growth, generate employment, and bring lasting benefits to both economies.
It's a deal that will bring huge benefits to both of our countries, boosting wages, raising living standards, and putting more money in the pockets of working people. It is good for jobs, it is good for business, cutting tariffs and making trade cheaper, quicker and easier.
The trade deal opens the doors of the UK's $37.5 billion agricultural market to Indian farmers, boosting exports of millets, jackfruit, herbs and more, while safeguarding sensitive sectors like dairy and apples. For India's MSMEs, it unlocks access to trade finance, intellectual property protections, and UK procurement channels. Indian seafood will now enter the UK's $5.4 billion marine market, duty-free, supporting 28 million livelihoods. Leather and footwear exports are expected to cross $900 million, benefiting manufacturing hubs in Kanpur and Tirupur. In a strong push for inclusivity, the deal includes gender-focused provisions, empowering women artisans and self-help groups with duty-free access and skilling support. Services too get a boost, gaining visa clarity and greater mobility. India's youth stand to benefit from new job opportunities in the UK, particularly in IT, finance and education. The two prime ministers also launched the UK-India Vision 2035, laying the roadmap for a future-ready strategic partnership. Using a cricket analogy, Prime Minister described the relationship as a high-scoring, solid partnership, a bond built on trust, shared values, and mutual ambition.
For both of us, cricket is not just a game, but a passion. And also a great metaphor for our partnership. There may be a swing and a miss at times, but we always play with a straight bat. We are committed to building high-scoring, solid partnership.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called it the biggest trade deal signed by the UK since Brexit, a powerful statement of confidence in India's growing global role and economic potential.
This is the biggest and most economically significant trade deal that the UK has made since leaving the EU. Thank you, Prime Minister, for your leadership and for your pragmatism. And I'd like to thank everybody who's worked so hard to get this deal over the line.
Years in the making, this long-awaited pact marks a turning point in India-UK economic relations. With inputs from Gautam Roy in London, Bureau Report, DD India.
PM Modi also highlighted the benefits of double contribution convention that was also agreed alongside the FTA deal. And PM Modi said that the trade deal will significantly boost employment opportunities for both the nations.
इस समझौते के साथ ही डबल कंट्रीब्यूशन कन्वेंशन पर भी सहमति बनी है। इसे दोनों के सर्विस सेक्टर, विशेषकर टेक्नोलॉजी और फाइनेंस के उसको एक नई ऊर्जा मिलेगी। ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस को गति मिलेगी। कॉस्ट ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस घटेगा और कॉन्फिडेंस ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस बढ़ेगा। साथ ही यूके की अर्थव्यवस्था को भारतीय स्किल्ड टैलेंट मिलेगा। इन समझौतों से दोनों देशों में निवेश बढ़ेगा और रोजगार के नए अवसर बनेंगे। इतना ही नहीं, दो लोकतांत्रिक देशों और विश्व की दो बड़ी इकोनॉमीज के बीच हुए ये समझौते वैश्विक स्थिरता और समृद्धि को भी बल देंगे।
PM also added that India and the UK have continued to share views on peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and the situation in West Asia. PM Modi also thanked UK PM for strongly condemning the Pahalgam terror attack.
पहलगाम में हुए आतंकवादी हमले की कठोर निंदा के लिए हम प्रधानमंत्री स्टारमर और उनकी सरकार का आभार व्यक्त करते हैं। हम एक मत हैं कि आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में दोहरे मापदंडों का कोई स्थान नहीं है। हम इस बात पर भी सहमत हैं कि एक्सट्रीमिस्ट विचारधारा वाली शक्तियों को डेमोक्रेटिक फ्रीडम का दुरुपयोग नहीं करने दिया जा सकता। Those who misuse democratic freedoms to undermine democracy itself must be held account. इकोनॉमिक ऑफेंडर्स के प्रत्यार्पण के विषय पर भी हमारी एजेंसी सहयोग और समन्वय से काम करती रहेगी।
PM Keir Starmer added that the UK wants to further strengthen ties with India, and hence the India-UK Vision 2035 was also endorsed alongside the trade deal.
We want to strengthen our relationship further so that it is even more ambitious, modern and focused on the long term, the step up in the relationship that we discussed in the autumn of last year. And that's why, alongside this trade deal, I am delighted that we're building on our partnership by launching our India-UK Vision 2035 strategy, pledging to work more closely on areas such as defence, migration, climate, education and health.
Interacting with the media on PM Modi's visit to the UK, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri stated that India continues to raise its concerns with UK authorities on matters related to economic offenders and extremism and expect that legal issues involved will be addressed in an expedited manner.
On terrorism and on economic offenders, I've already mentioned that we've continued to bring our concerns to the attention of UK authorities. As far as economic offenders are concerned, we understand wherever there are legal processes to be entered or to be carried through, we expect that those legal processes will be taken to their conclusion in an expedited manner so that justice can be served.
Industry captains across all sectors laud the India-UK trade deal, which is expected to open business opportunities across various fields in both the countries. Listen in.
Trade Promotion Council of India celebrates this pivotal moment of India-UK trade relations, as today both the countries have signed the long-awaited free trade agreement. Thanks to the efforts of the Department of Commerce and hard work of negotiators under the visionary leadership of our Commerce and Industries Minister Shri Piyush Goyal ji. And out, I see that this agreement is a very, very important headshot in our exports. We are looking at doubling our exports in the next 5 years. As a vision of our Honorable Industries Minister, and I think the India-UK FTA will bring a lot of value and will help augment our exports in the coming years.
Speaking with the DD India, Chairman of Vedanta Anil Agarwal hailed it as a great achievement for Britain and India as they walked down the progressive path. He further added that the deal will boost economic activity and create many jobs. The Confederation of Indian Industry has welcomed India-UK Free Trade Agreement as a transformational milestone in bilateral economic relations. Founder and chairman of Bharti Enterprises and co-chair of the India-UK CEO Forum, Sunil Bharti Mittal, said Indian industry across all sectors welcomes the India-UK FTA with great optimism. This agreement establishes a modern, forward-looking partnership that will stimulate innovation, ease market access and foster investment. Businesses in India as well as the UK stand to gain tremendously as it lays the groundwork for scaling up bilateral cooperation across key growth sectors. Director General of CII, Chandrajit Banerjee, said CII has been a long-standing advocate for a comprehensive and forward-looking India-UK Free Trade Agreement. This FTA marks a defining moment in a bilateral relationship, reflecting a shared commitment to inclusive growth, economic resilience and industrial transformation. It creates a strong foundation for deeper market access, regulatory cooperation and next-generation partnerships between Indian and UK businesses. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour, and to discuss the takeaways so far from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United Kingdom, we are being joined by Ambassador Dileep Sinha. He's former Indian ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, and he also served as Indian ambassador to Greece. And also joining us is Manish Singhal. He is the Secretary General of ASSOCHAM. That echoes the voice of the Indian industry. Such a pleasure to have the two gentlemen here on DD India NewsHour. Ambassador, beginning with you. How is the landmark India-UK FTA called CETA a game changer for India-UK bilateral relationship? I'm not getting into the specifics of trade in goods and services or the movement of professionals here, but generally for the bilateral relationship, do you think that it will act as a glue in this relationship and will take the relationship to unprecedented heights?
Yes, it is, because as Prime Minister Starmer himself said, it is for the UK the biggest trade deal the UK has concluded after Brexit. So after Brexit, Britain has been looking around for partners to make up for the loss in trade and economic relations that it had with the EU partners, while it has been trying to stabilize its relations with the EU itself. So in this, coming back to India and making India its most important partner is a kind of a throwback to the Commonwealth days when India-UK had very close relations. And then in the 1970s, as UK moved towards Europe and the European Union, our relations took up a slight backseat. So that is now coming back. And it's a very healthy development because UK is already one of India's largest trading partners. It's also an economic partner because of the investment that both countries have. And this relationship now comes at a time when India itself has become a major economic power in its own right. So now it's a partnership that is more equal than it was, let us say, when India was part of in the pre-EU days, when India and UK had relations as part of the Commonwealth relations. So that in this sense, it's a coming together of these two countries that were at one time very close to each other. And now they are coming back because as major economies, looking forward to the new turbulent times that we have in the global economy.
Absolutely. That's a very different way of putting it. We'll come back to how this relationship is now moving back from strength to strength after a hiatus of the previous decades in a bit. But before that, Mr. Singhal, how is CETA a win-win for both economies of India and the UK and also their people in terms of much more market access, nearly 99% to 100% in some cases, incomes, affordability, mutual growth and jobs? And which sectors do you think stand to gain the most, if you could put all of that into perspective for us?
See, I think this has been quite a comprehensive FTA because not only some sectors, especially our manufacturing sectors, which are big employers also in India. You know, you talk of leather, gems, jewelry, pharma, garments, textiles, all these sectors would get a fillip. Even some of our agriculture produce, including millets, get access to that market. While on our end, we have obviously drawn red lines on other agriculture products to come into India for obvious reasons. Likewise, you know, when you look at some of the services part, we get very good access to the UK market. Anyways, you know, historically, I think almost 50% of our exports have been of services. But now with UK accepting a waiver for up to 3 years of temporary work into UK for social security contributions, that's, I think, a big win for India because it allows Indian services to become more competitive. And in a way, it's a win for UK also because UK gets access to more competitively priced Indian services. And, you know, earlier this social security contribution was just, you know, not coming back either to the employee which is working there or to the government of India or to the employer. So I think both services and merchant exports get broadly covered, and there are clearly delineated rules of origin norms. There are also IPR protection, and we are, of course, we've agreed to remove a lot of non-tariff barriers, which would make trade easier. So it's, I think, just building on the historical relationship India and UK have had, the strong people-to-people connect India and UK have had. We are just building on, and I'm quite confident that in the next 5 years, we will probably more than double the trade, as also seen by our Prime Minister and the Commerce Minister.
Absolutely. That's the target that we have set for ourselves, that in the next 5 years, that is by 2030, we'll double the trade from around $60 billion now to $120 billion then. Well, Ambassador, Vision 2035 was launched as the roadmap for the next decade in areas of technology, defense, climate, education, and people-to-people ties. A lot is happening in all the spheres, particularly in the last few years. What can we expect in each of these areas going forward?
Well, this agreement is extremely important for us because this is the first agreement that we have with the three major trading partners that we are currently negotiating with. One is the EU and the other is the US. And
no, I'm talking of the Vision 2035 here. But you can also speak on the FTA and then come on Vision 2035, if you will.
Well, as I said, in this case, the fact that the India-UK economies are very complementary, and they complement each other in certain ways in which we do not fear as much from the FTA as perhaps we do with the US economy because of the agricultural factor that comes in, and also with the EU because of other factors. So here, the opening up that's taking place with the UK as part of this vision document that we have joined the UK with, it enables India to open up its economy to the Western countries in a progressive way, so that the economy opens up without too much harm to itself, and it becomes more competitive. And that is extremely important because the UK agreement and the vision document will become the template for the other two trade negotiations that are taking place currently with the EU and the US. And here the fact that we have come to an agreement with the UK on issues like social security contributions, on permissions for our workers to go there. And we are also discussing the other two areas that the UK is very closely interested in: financial services and legal services in the Indian market. So all these are areas that are now steadily opening up, and we get a partner country with whom we feel a little more comfortable opening up than perhaps with the others. So that's a very good way of opening up our economy and making it more competitive.
Okay. And there's also Vision 2035 that has been exchanged or endorsed in a sense, Ambassador Sinha, and it has various pillars like technology and innovation is one of them, defense and security is another, climate and clean energy is another, education is another, people-to-people ties are also part of that. So do you think that this is a relationship that is becoming comprehensive over time, and there is a lot of promise here, and time now would be to deliver on those promises, and the proof of the pudding would be in the eating, would you say?
Yes, the UK is one of those countries where there is a very large amount of Indian investment that is taking place. UK itself recognizes that India is a job creator, and Indian investment is a job creator in the UK. Now, in this kind of an environment, collaboration in technology and the other areas that have been identified in this vision document of defense cooperation, education, and climate technology are all areas in which we can now be equal partners. And while earlier we talked only about transfer of technology, now we talk about joint development of technology and sharing technological information, as also investment. Investment flows both ways between India and the UK. UK is sixth largest investor in India. India is also one of the major investors in the UK. So it's a two-way traffic in which collaboration takes place jointly. And there the vision document identifies the sectors in which our cooperation should move forward.
Absolutely. We'll request both the guests to stay with us. We've got an exclusive conversation from India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. My colleague Gautam Roy caught up with him. Let's listen in.
Well, the India-UK FTA or the CETA is finally across the line after a course of 3.5 years, and we have a key person who has been involved in the process right from the start and seen to its very end. And we have with us India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal with us. First of all, many congratulations for getting this across the line.
Thank you very much. This has really been a labor of love. And I must compliment Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Keith Starmer for their leadership, both the teams which put in hours and days and nights of hard work. It's come to fruition at a very opportune time and opens up vast opportunities for businesses on both sides.
How would you quantify the benefits? Because the UK has been very clear, 4.8 billion British pounds per annum, 0.1% of the GDP added every year, $6 billion in a spin-off as well, $6 billion of, again, pounds. So for India, what does it mean?
Well, these are estimates, but for the Indian perspective, we are a highly cost-competitive, high-quality economy. Our production of labor-intensive products in textiles and food processing, our various agricultural products, our footwear and leather products, furniture, all of these have a huge market in the United Kingdom, which is the world's 6th largest GDP. And I can clearly see that India will have a comparative advantage. Products which are labor intensive will get huge traction in the United Kingdom because of the double convention, double contribution convention that we have approved. Now our workers, our talent which comes to UK to work for the first 3 years will not be required to pay social security which goes into the treasury, but they do not get any benefit out of it. They have to pay that in their Indian Provident Fund account, which will be their savings. So that will be a huge benefit for all those who come for temporary work in the United Kingdom. Apart from that, this will spur investments on both sides because given the certainty and stability that a free trade agreement provides, it is quite obvious that manufacturers, MSMEs, our food processing industry, textile industry, all of them can now look for long-term contracts and long-term business potential.
And does it also sufficiently, I would not say protect, because that's a different connotation, but safeguard the interests of our industries and farmers, particularly youth as well, and women in the rural areas?
All the sensitive items like dairy or rice and sugar, all of them where there was any concern whatsoever have been kept out of the FTA. Both sides had agreed very early on that we will respect each other's mutual sensitivities. And I'm happy to report that not a single item which could be sensitive from our farmers' perspective, from our women's perspective, from our MSME's perspective has been opened up. So it'll be a situation where India will only stand to gain with almost no sacrifice.
And in terms of coming into effect, that will take some time, but it's also being said that it will double the levels of trade and take it into the zone of $120 billion by 2030. So you see that will come into fruition?
I'm quite confident that this will give a boost both for trade in goods and services. And the $120 billion target of 2030 is eminently doable. The advantage of the free trade agreement, you're right, it may take a few months by the time they get the parliamentary approval, but it provides the certainty to businesses to start looking at India as a part of their supply chains, to start developing sources in India for supporting their requirements in UK. And the UK tariff structure was such that all labor-oriented goods had high duties. And that will now go away. So that gives us the comparative advantage, something that for years Indian industry has been looking for.
And does it also account for the kind of disruptive impact AI itself is having on any sort of human productivity and how to tackle that particular aspect while ensuring that, of course, there's progress on the question of generating more business and income?
Well, the AI story is written separately. The trade agreement does not directly look at AI. But because our services will become more competitive in UK, almost 25% of the cost of employment used to go away into social security payments, which didn't benefit the employee. That saving will help Indian service providers become more competitive in UK and therefore open up newer and newer opportunities, even in the field of artificial intelligence or quantum computing.
It will also bring down cost of doing business. And you're also involved in several other negotiations with, very weighty sort of trade agreements with the US, with the EU and others. So do you think that this will send out a loud enough message to everyone who's trying to strike a deal with India that, look, we are looking very seriously to strike a very substantive deal if the other side is willing?
India is very practical and pragmatic in its approach. All trade negotiations stand on their own legs, and different negotiations are going on across the world, east to west, right?
Somebody's talked about a 1st of August deadline.
Well, every deal, every transaction, every opportunity will be seized in the interests of India, in the interests of Indian workers, Indian labor, Indian farmers. And I can assure you that given the huge potential that a 1.4 billion young population provides, given that we are the world's fastest growing large economy today, already in the top 5, will become the 3rd largest in the next 2 years. I think all countries around the world, advanced economies, developed economies, are looking for robust, win-win trade agreements, balanced trade agreements with India.
So that was an exclusive conversation that my colleague Gautam Roy had with India's Industry and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. Remember, Piyush Goyal and his UK counterpart signed the landmark FTA called CETA, Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement between India and the UK. After years of negotiations, this was finalized and signed between both the sides, and both sides are hailing it as a historic milestone. Let's go back to the discussion that we were having. Mr. Singhal, how did you find this conversation, particularly the fact that Piyush Goyal said that sensitive issues were kept out of the ambit of the FTA? He named dairy. And also another question to you, how will the FTA make it easier for Indian talent to work in the UK, because it also gives a boost to professionals' mobility?
So, yeah, I mean, as rightly mentioned by Honorable Minister, we have kept sectors which are sensitive to us, let's say in terms of dairy imports or even some of the agricultural imports and all away, while we get access to not only food processing products, duty-free access, but we also get access to marine products, which are all, fairly labor-intensive sectors. On services front, like I mentioned, since UK has waived off the requirement of social security deposits for up to 3 years of temporary work in the UK, that I think is a big win for our services exports, because they not only make our services very competitive, but probably those services also come in cheaper for UK. So it's a win-win for both the countries in a way. Of course, there's a quantitative limit of 75,000, but I think there's more to gain there than to call it a limit. Likewise, we have looked at cooperating when it comes to services, both in terms of R&D, innovation, and then defense is another thing which is going to be long-term cooperation, in the Vision 2035 documents also it's mentioned. So all in all, I think ministers put it in right perspective. We have drawn our own red lines, and so that there's nothing in this agreement really goes against the common man, the farmers, the women, and the industry workers.
Right. Coming back to you, Ambassador, going back to the press statement that Prime Minister had made earlier in the day, he said, and I quote, "We are united in our view that there can be no place for double standards in the fight against terrorism. We also agree that forces with extremist ideologies must not be allowed to misuse democratic freedoms. Those who misuse democratic freedoms to undermine democracy itself must be held to account. a twin attack on cross-border terrorists and anti-India extremists in the UK. How do you think the UK has received this message that freedom of expression cannot be an excuse to allow extremists to threaten Indian interests, such as by vandalizing Indian missions or by threatening Indian diplomats?
Yes, this has been one of the problems that we have faced in the UK of elements taking shelter there and taking advantage of the asylum laws of these countries to find a base there and then misusing the legal system there to stay on and avoid extradition to India. This is as true of terrorist elements, fundamentalist elements, as of economic offenders. And you would have noticed that in the agreements that have been signed today, this time, there is a provision for enhanced intelligence sharing and operational cooperation in dealing with corruption, with serious fraud, with organized crime, and with irregular migration. So all these factors would go towards strengthening cooperation between India and the UK in dealing with these elements, these criminal elements. And plus also this political message to the UK that India will deal with, India takes any element of protection or giving shelter to terrorist elements will be taken seriously by India.
Mr. Singhal, Piyush Goyal and you also in your previous remarks have spoken about how a consensus has been reached on double contribution convention, and under this, to repeat, India has secured an exemption for Indian workers who are temporarily in the UK and their employers from paying social security contributions for a period of 3 years. If you could further tell us in practical terms, how is this going to work? What happens from the 4th year onwards? And particularly for professionals in the technology and finance domains, how helpful would this be? And can this be a blueprint for cooperation with other countries?
Absolutely. See, as per my understanding, almost 90% of people moving into UK are there for a tenure of less than about 3 years. So, so far, they had to contribute towards social security, which I believe is almost 25% of the compensation they were being given. Now with that coming to zero, it means that our services become more competitive. So it is actually a big gain. Yes, obviously, if there is really a project or a intent of the individual to stay longer than 3 years, then like we would also want long-term stays in India to do, they should contribute towards the social security contribution, and if they stay on till 10 years, they do actually get it back in terms of social security benefits. So I think this is a big gain. Like I said, yes, there is a limitation of 75,000, but it sounds to be good for a start, and since 75,000 could be at any point of time, which means that people are going and coming, actual benefit accrued by the industry could be much larger.
Okay. Ambassador, when PM Modi says today's era demands development, not expansionism, and also mentions the Indo-Pacific, the Vision 2035 also mentions the Indo-Pacific, though he also mentioned the war in Ukraine, the situation in West Asia. Where do you think his message is directed at?
Well, this message is directed at all the forces, all the countries that are misusing their military power to threaten their smaller neighbors. In the case of Russia, it's Ukraine, where the Prime Minister had said that it's not an era of war. In the case of the Middle East, we know it's of Israeli continuing invasions in military actions in Gaza and other countries, other countries of the region. And then, of course, there is China that is constantly threatening Taiwan and the Philippines in South China Sea. So this feeling all over the world that among big powers that the only way to solve political problems, is to use the military first. And that is what needs to be checked. And this is the message that needs to be sent out to everybody, that big powers have to exercise restraint. And the old ideal that the world had set to itself after the Second World War, that political problems should be solved through peaceful means and not by military action.
Mr. Singhal, how does the UK, which is struggling to revive a stagnating economy, stand to gain from the FTA? And will this win-win deal help tackle the anti-immigrant sentiment as far as legal immigrants from India are concerned?
See, that's a bit of a tricky one. That only time will tell us. But like I mentioned, in case of services, if Indian services are going to become more competitive, it's all for UK to gain. The other big gain is that while India gets access to the UK market, UK also gets access to a market of 1.4 billion people, or let's say at least 500 million middle class, which is growing, which is aspirational. So that's why I call it a win-win agreement, because UK gains huge market access, whether they manufacture in UK or they come to India and scale it up here in India. They gain a bigger market access for their technology, for their goods, and that's gonna probably help to boost the economy also, which you just mentioned rightly, that it is somewhat stagnating. So if UK is going to get more competitively made products and services, their economy benefits. And on the other hand, if they get access to a large market like India, I'm sure it is going to benefit UK also.
Right, Ambassador, coming to you now. Like you said, both sides have agreed to strengthen cooperation in tackling corruption, serious fraud, organized crime and irregular migration through enhanced intelligence sharing and operational collaboration. And MOU has been exchanged on this. This is something that touches people's lives, and one can relate to how phishing or online fraud from UK numbers has been a concern. Even on email, you tend to get such emails where they tend to try to trap people in India and around the world. So how much was this cooperation really needed to your mind in an institutionalized form now?
Well, this is an area where cooperation is needed, because this kind of crime can be committed from, it doesn't accept national borders. And in many of these crimes, there are people of different nationalities involved. In fact, in certain crimes, Indians also involved, where they get trapped into situations where they are taken out and are compelled to use their skills in computers to commit these frauds and crimes. So here it is important that the law enforcement agencies exchange information and exchange technology as well, because it's not easy to catch these hackers and people who misuse the web to defraud people. So in this exchange of information, sharing intelligence and experiences is extremely important to get the agencies to trust each other and take action against such criminals.
Right, Mr. Singhal, very quickly, do you think that this FTA could become a blueprint for future FTAs with other countries?
Yes, absolutely. Not only this FTA, we also recently concluded the FTA with the EFTA countries, which will be operated from 1st October, I guess. So these FTAs definitely pave way for FTAs, the larger FTAs we are working on with the EU and with the US. It does convey to those countries or regions as to what India's red lines would be, and where India would not want to compromise it if it impacts our people, let's say the farmers, the women and the industry workers at large. At the same time, it also shows India's openness to create win-win deals between two countries or regions, so that both countries get greater market access and both countries get greater access for its services, and while keeping and giving respect to the red lines which both the countries or the regions would have.
We leave it at that, Mr. Singhal and Ambassador Sinha. Such a pleasure to have you on DD India NewsHour tonight. In a significant development, former Chief Justice of Bangladesh, ABM Khairul Haq, was arrested on Thursday by the Detective Branch of Dhaka Police. Joint Commissioner Mohammad Nasirul Islam confirmed the arrest to the media but refrained from disclosing the reason behind the detention or any specifics of the ongoing investigation. Justice Haq, who served as the 19th Chief Justice of Bangladesh, was sworn in on 30th September 2010 and retired in May 2011 after reaching the retirement age of 67. Let's now take a look at other stories making news from around the world. Statue of St. Thomas has been reinstalled at Notre Dame, completing the full set of 16 statues that once adorned the base of the cathedral's spire. The statues were removed just days before the 2019 fire for restoration work. With the return, they stand as symbols of survival and renewal as Notre Dame continues its reconstruction process. Heatwave conditions continue to impact the Balkans. Locals and tourists in Sarajevo sought relief on Thursday by heading to the cooler, wooded areas outside the city. Many flocked to the Bosna River Springs, where the shade and cold waters offered a welcome escape. With temperatures soaring to 40 degrees Celsius across the region, authorities have issued health warnings urging people to stay hydrated. After 8 years behind closed doors and a US $2 billion restoration, the iconic Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City is once again welcoming guests. The massive renovation is one of the largest preservation and adaptive reuse projects in the city's history. The effort aimed to modernize and preserve its historic 1931 Art Deco design. Still to come on DD India NewsHour. Tokyo is abuzz with vibrant colors and sounds of India. Cricketer Rishabh Pant achieves a significant milestone, becoming India's highest run scorer in World Test Championship.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Thailand and Cambodia fought their deadliest clashes in over a decade on Thursday, in which 12 people were killed. The dispute centers on the Emerald Triangle border. Cambodia fired rockets. Thailand responded with F-16 airstrikes and closed border checkpoints. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim urged peaceful negotiations between the two nations.
The two Southeast Asian nations, Thailand and Cambodia, engaged in bloodiest military clashes in more than a decade on Thursday, with at least 12 people killed. The two sides battled with tanks, artillery and ground forces over a disputed border zone. The fighting marks a dramatic escalation in a long-running dispute over an area known as the Emerald Triangle, where the borders of both countries and Laos meet. In Thursday's clashes, Cambodia fired rockets and artillery shells into Thailand, and the Thai military scrambled F-16 jets to carry out airstrikes. Vowing to retaliate, Thai Foreign Ministry spokesperson Nikondej Balangkura said that Cambodia's attack targeted a military base and civilian areas.
On the morning of 24th July 2025, heavy artillery was fired into the Thai military base and continued throughout the morning. The attacks also targeted Thai civilian areas, including a hospital, resulting in civilian casualties and fatalities. The Royal Thai government is prepared to intensify our self-defense measures if Cambodia persists in its armed aggression and violations upon Thailand's sovereignty in accordance with international law and principles.
Thai authorities also announced the closure of all border points with Cambodia. Rear Admiral Surasant Kongsiris said that Thailand escalated the security measures along the border from level 2, which only restricts the crossing borders of the people and the period of time that they can cross, to level 4, which involves the complete closure of all border checkpoints along the Thai-Cambodian border.
Since the situation has escalated
we felt obligated and compelled that the ad hoc center has to escalate the security measures along the border from level 2, which only restrict the crossing borders of the people and the time or the period of time that they can cross. Now we have escalated the measures to level 4, which involves the complete closure of all border checkpoints along the Thai-Cambodian border.
The decades-old squabble flared into bloody clashes more than 15 years ago, and again in May, when a Cambodian soldier was killed in a firefight. Thailand's neighboring nation Malaysia has called on Thailand and Cambodia to stand down following deadly border clashes. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim urged the two Southeast Asian neighbors to enter into negotiation. The conflict blazed up on Thursday, with Cambodia firing rockets and artillery shells into Thailand and Thai military scrambling F-16 jets to carry out airstrikes. Bureau Report, DD India.
Iran is ready to resume nuclear negotiations with the United States, provided key principles are upheld, Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Gharibabadi announced on Thursday. The statement comes ahead of a pivotal meeting with European powers in Istanbul, scheduled for Friday. The Iranian diplomat said talks could resume as long as Tehran's rights under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty are recognized. Washington builds trust with Tehran and guarantees that negotiations will not lead to renewed military action against Iran. The announcement follows a tense period marked by US and Israeli airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, which disrupted inspections and heightened regional tensions. Tokyo was abuzz with the vibrant colors and sounds of India today as the Indian Embassy hosted an unprecedented cultural marathon called India, that is Bharat 2025, celebrating Amrit Kaal. It was none less than a cultural Mahakumbh, a nod to India's grandest pilgrimage. This 750 minutes extravaganza showcased the rich tapestry of Indian arts and heritage in Japan. From classical dance forms like Bharatnatyam, Odissi, Kathak, mesmerizing musical renditions to regional art forms, the Indian ambassador to Japan, His Excellency C.B. George, spoke passionately about the event's significance.
We see an India connection. I attribute it to two main reasons. One, the strength of our civilization and our diverse culture. India is one of the oldest, largest, and perhaps among the very few continuous major civilizations in the world. India, that is Bharat, is a nation of unity in diversity. This diversity is our strength. Every diverse culture in India flourishes. Every religion and region in India flourishes.
The event drew a large and enthusiastic crowd, including many Japanese participants eager to experience Indian culture firsthand.
So it was an amazing experience being a part of this culture exchange, and then the idea of having 24 hours all straight on a cultural performance. I think it was amazing. I'm so grateful to be part of it, and I much appreciate for the Vivekananda Cultural Center to hosting it.
Thank you for giving me such a wonderful opportunity for me. And Kathak is very beautiful art for me, and I really love it. And thank you for having me.
You're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for all the sports action. Rishabh Pant achieved a significant milestone on Thursday, becoming India's highest run scorer in the World Test Championship. He surpassed Rohit Sharma's record of 2,716 runs during the fourth India-England Test at Old Trafford. The 27-year-old wicketkeeper batter reached this landmark in his 38th WTC match while batting in the second session of Day 2 despite sustaining a foot injury on the first day. Rishabh Pant, who retired hurt on the opening day of the fourth test in Manchester, has suffered a fracture in his right toe, an injury that could take up to 2 months to heal. Pant needed 40 runs to break Rohit's record and successfully accomplished this feat during India's first innings. His WTC career now includes 6 centuries and 15 50s, maintaining an impressive average of 43.8. The left-hander's achievement adds to his growing list of accomplishments in England, where he became the first non-English wicketkeeper batter to score 1,000 test runs on Wednesday. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Munmin Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.